Very warm welcome and good morning to everybody. Sorry about the few tiny tech issues, but we seem to have all of that solved now. My name is Gita Chud, and together with Larry Shapiro, who is somewhere with us on the screen, there he is giving a wave. We are the co-chairpersons of Jewish Seniors Alliance. JSA has been hosting the Empowerment Series for a number of years, and we have decided to stay with that overarching theme, empowerment, because no matter our particular theme or our guest speakers, we are always empowered by the stories they share and by what we learn. We have also, over the years, made certain that our empowerment series are co-sponsored with a partner organization in our community. And today we are delighted to partner with Jewish Family Services. And Tamar, you can give a little wave, and some of your other members, I'm sure, are on with us. So today our title, in brief, I love acronyms, so I just call it RR and I, Retired, Rewired, and Inspired. And we are going to hear from three wonderful people who will share their personal stories with us. Before our dear friend Goldberg introduces our three speakers, I just want to remind everybody that before we conclude today, you will see on your screen a very short, easy to respond to poll that offers us your feedback on today's session, and most importantly, asks about themes or potential guest speakers that you would like us to be able to feature in the future. How about that? So Jen will be posting the poll before we conclude. And so now, our honor and delight to introduce Fran Goldberg, who will in turn introduce our great RR and I guests today. Thank you.
Fran, we've got to unmute her.
Fran's still muted. There she is.
Okay, I'll start again.
Good. There we go.
Thanks, Gita. In early November of 21, the planning committee met on Zoom to try and figure out a topic for this month's empowerment session. We initially toyed with the idea of a program that would look at the effects that pandemic constraints were having on seniors. That felt like too daunting a task. So instead, we searched for a happier theme, one without external restrictions. The title, Retired, Rewired, and Inspired, came so quickly, it was almost a sign that we made the right choice. And who better to talk about life after retirement but a panel of our peers? Each of the three individuals we're about to hear from immediately agreed when asked to participate. They were given the name of the title or the name of the session, and then gently nudged to consider how, what, who has helped them in their transition from active employment to busy post-retirement unpaid work. Each speaker will speak for approximately 10 minutes, and then we'll pass the proverbial mic into the next panelist. A question and answer session will appear after the last presentation. I encourage you to type your questions in the chat box as you think of them, or you can wait until the Q&A and raise your hand. Our first speaker will be Rosa Tesler, affectionately referred to as Chuly. She retired in 2018 with a clear vision of what her retirement was going to look like. and then that was derailed. Today, Chuly's life experiences help in volunteerism with the Jewish Seniors Alliance. Our next speaker is Paul Steinbok, who retired in 2017. During his tenure as a neurosurgeon, he also nurtured a passion for photography. This hobby has accompanied him on extensive travels to places near and far. Paul is active in the seniors programs offered by Jewish Family Services. The final speaker will be Tony DuMoulin, who retired from the practice of law more than 10 years ago. Today, Tony applies his skills to various volunteer positions within the Jewish Seniors Alliance. So without further ado, take it away, Chuly.
Yeah. Thank you, Gita. Thank you, Fran, for the introduction. As you said, my name is Rosa Tesler and Chuly for family and friends. My take is that retirement can be looked as time to go on, of course, a new road, exciting, exhilarating, lots of plans, lots of things to do, many details to follow and all that. But just need to be honest with you and tell you that at the same time, has an up and down road for me. It had for me, in any case. I was doing counseling from 25 to 30 years. My passion was women who had issues of abuse in their lives and help them, pull them through. So come to a decision to retire was not easy. And retirement itself was not easy for me either, because so many of the losses that I had experienced, mainly losing my loving partner and then my mother, that really contribute to a feeling of a little bit of an empty space. I was just I am very privileged to have a family to which I am so deeply emotionally connected to. And they are to me as well. So as a family unit, I am very happy to have them, and I know they're happy to have me too. So not everything will be nice and dandy when we retire, ups, downs. We are to expect life, just what it is. I believe that the secret is being able to ride the downs carefully, as when you were downhill skiing or cross-country skiing. Just do not fall, just ride them easy. And that's what I did. Mainly, I use a lot of patience and determination. I also learn, I think, I'm still learning, to have self-compassion, because we have compassion to many other people around us, but we need to look at ourselves too with the same lenses. So people arrive to retirement for different things: personal decisions to change, a workplace guideline, health, etc. In my case, it was health. Actually, I was feeling physically very tired. I knew without knowing for sure something was not going well. And so after I retired, of course, I prepared my clients, we talked, I refer them to the new person, etc., etc. But I knew something had to be determined with my health. Took, as I said, a year. I kept pushing forward and hard. My family, as I said, always there for me, with me. Came through it. I really did come through it. I am on the right medication. I am doing the right things that I need to do, mostly, not, not all the time. And I cannot say that I don't have mentioned, I have to mention also the other people in my life that helped and is still helping. I have, as I said, great family, great friends, but I have my therapy. I have a psychotherapist. I have Tian Allen, who is my instructor for the yoga and meditation, and who really helps me a lot because it really calms my anxiety, makes me feel better. I mean, lots of people around me. And the things that I love to do also. Besides those, I mean, I decided when I retired that I would be counseling as volunteer. And that's what I did. I took 2 courses. First, I took a course called Wise Aging, I think. And then I took the Jewish Seniors Alliance course on the friendly visitors. Of course, those were my wants. Those what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, at some point, we had the pandemic hit. And that certainly changed all of the plans, or most of the plans that I had done, as it did for everybody, actually. So the training was done on Zoom. Thank goodness for the technology that it took me a while to learn and understand. And the visits to family, friends were scarce. We couldn't go into houses first, and then we could go outdoors. I mean, a lot of things were or postponed or changed. This is the thing, to adapt to the changes. And which is not easy. I know it's not easy, but we do it. We all know what we had to modify in our lives during these 2, especially these 2 last years, and maybe further back. But I do. I kept up my Tai Chi, my yoga, meditation, volunteer work, psychotherapy, gardening. I love nature. I am marveled by a family of ducks who nested at the back of my house, and who I just got to see the mother with 8 of her little ducklings. So those things still are wonders for me, really. So I did modify what I had to modify, and I had to let go traveling. For now, I didn't travel anywhere, and I'm not doing it yet. One of my dreams was to go on a cruise. I haven't done it, and I don't think I will do it anyways. It scares me now. So rewinding, adapting, reframing is what kept me going forward. And hope. Hope was my late husband's favorite. I will never forget. He would always say, Chuly, never lose that one. And he was right, totally right. So what continues to inspire me is that close, meaningful relationship with the family, with the grandchildren, with the dogs. The love I have for music, animals, volunteering, nature, therapy, meditation, future travels. That's where the hope goes as well. I think I'm following what Maya Angelou had said. Her words were, time ago, what happens to us is not what defines us. Only what we do about it determines who we are. And that is so true, because all these barriers and all these trials that we go through, we still do it. And when we still do it, we have to congratulate ourselves and look forward and keep doing it. You know, I'm from Argentina. My family is from Argentina. And I have a young friend there. He was my son's best friend. Teaches a course on learning for mature people. He's always ending every session. He does it in Zoom and in Spanish, obviously. And my translation is always very poor, but he ends every session saying, I leave you with 3 things to have in mind. And for the next session, I'll ask you about it. So 1, the things that you want to continue in your life, the things that have been your passion, the things that are still there in your heart for you. Number 2, stop the things you don't want in your life and that you carry through just because you had to. Now is the time to think it's because you want to. And number 3, things that you want to initiate, what you want to continue, what you want to start again, and or if it's not again, start finally in your life. I do not know. I never checked the time. You said 10 minutes. How much? How long has it been? Is anybody checking the time? Okay. All right. So if I have a minute, I'll give you something that a friend gave me. It's a very short thing when I retired. This is a little poem, and it says, "This is where your life has arrived after all the years of effort and toil. Look back with graciousness and thanks on all your great and quiet, unique achievements. You stand on the shore of new invitation to open your life to what's left undone and you would like to see done. Let your heart enjoy a different rhythm when drawn to the wonder of other horizons." I thought it was really sweet and very inspiring. And of course, I love Gloria, and I think she does the same for me.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Thank you for your grace and all your message. So time to pass the mic over to Paul.
Oh.
First of all, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay. So as you heard, I retired from pediatric neurosurgery in 2017. And my expectation at the time was that I was going to do some more volunteering and expand the time for my hobbies, which were mainly gardening, photography, travel, and walking. And photography took over a lot of my time, and I'm going to talk today about photography in my life. And I started my photography at the University of the West Indies, shown here. When I first entered to go to medical school, I joined what was called a camera club. And I became the president of that club after a few years and became reasonably good at doing black and white photography mainly at the time. And here are some photographs that were entered into the Jamaican National Exhibition, where I won the Best Amateur Photographer Award at 1970. And photography remained an important hobby for me, especially associated with travel that I did a lot of. And in 2017, when I retired, I joined a photography group at the UBC Emeritus College. I attended some photography courses, first in person and then by video because of COVID. And I started to learn more about digital photography, how to improve my photos using post-processing with programs such as Lightroom and Photoshop, which I knew nothing about. The COVID pandemic was declared on March the 11th, 2020. And one of the things that we were allowed to do was to walk in the neighborhood, which I did a lot of. And I became, like many people, more aware of the beauty of our natural environment as I walked around. And I started to take photos. My initial idea was to capture the beauty of nature in an artistic manner, if possible. And here's some of the early pictures that I took during the pandemic. This is cherry blossom season, just like now. It was around May 15th, or no, April 15th. Some magnolia flowers. In the fall, Japanese maple. And even in the winter, beautiful sights that you can see walking around even in the winter. And I was starting to look more closely at my environment with the eye of a photographer, if you can call it that. This is a regular poppy flower, but looking right in the middle of the flower, I thought it was just beautiful. This is a dandelion, a dead dandelion, that like a little puffball. And it's so beautiful how nature can create these structures. Even the pussy willow starting to bud out in the winter. Look at it closely. Look at how beautiful and interesting it is. And I became excited about textures and patterns. Looking here at this tree bark. This is the bark of a so-called paperbark maple. It's just beautiful and different as you walk around the tree. We live in a rainforest and we have lots of moss and lichen on the trees, and look at the bark, beautiful moss, lichen, it's just interesting patterns. Persian ironwood tree, again, the bark is really interesting. Here sometimes you see patterns in the trees, like an arbutus tree. It looked to me like a volcanic eruption on the outside of the bark. And even a tree stump, when you look at it closely, I can see the rings of life in this tree trunk, and then the cuts, the radial cuts of the saw, looking as though it cut the tree down and ruined it. And I got excited about these things. Here's another tree stump. It to me looked like an explosion from within. The whole thing was rupturing. And other tree trunks here, interesting patterns. This looks almost like a Rorschach's test, but it's on the surface of a tree stump. Here's another tree stump. To me, looked like an impressionistic painting of flowers in a vase going up. And it's just lichen and moss on the stump. And some mushrooms, split-gill mushrooms growing in another tree stump. And as time went by, I started to play more with my camera, became even more curious, starting to use my imagination more. And so here, with a long exposure and intentional camera movement, we have a picture looking like an impressionistic painting of a jogger in the spring colors, which are mainly yellow as the leaves come out. Here, there's some trees on the side of the road, but made to look as though there is a forest and there's spirits moving through the forest. And here, just an ordinary side road using a zoom burst, so it looks like I'm traveling at high speed toward a crash or into warp speed and into space. I also started to look at what I was walking on. I call it the world at my feet. First, I started to notice the sewer covers, and I realized there were many different types of sewer cover designs. And there were also these designs, which were very interesting and artistic. And I learned about them. I went online and found out that these designs that the city has were the results of two competitions, one in 2004 and one in 2013. As I looked at the pavement, I started to see and imagine things on the pavement. Here, just little patches look like someone walking, maybe a tree. This is just on the pavement. I looked at shadows on the pavement. shadows of trees. These are shadows of trees, and it looks like galloping horses or someone hiking. And just parallel lines that were very interesting patterns, shadows on the pavement. Here it looks like a chasm, like I'm in a prison trying to get out, and these things are stopping me from getting out. And Vancouver has lots of rain and puddles, and it creates puddles that reflect the trees and all the debris on the puddles. Looks like I'm in a dream world. Here, like an impressionistic painting showing the reflections in the puddles. And I flip the reflections upside down so they look like they're upright. This is a puddle on the road, and it looks like the trees are in snow, but it's not. And sometimes you see pollution, and even pollution can be beautiful. Look at this oil droplet that's dispersed in the water on the side of the road. And here on the pavement, just an oil drop. And to me, it's just beautiful. So photography has become a major, exciting retirement activity for me. And I think it adds meaning to my life because I get to share my photos and it gives pleasure to others. I share them with family, with friends, with the UBC Emeriti, with photo clubs, with seniors organizations like this. And people talk about my presentations, and they say that they've learned a lot, or they've been inspired to go out and see the world differently, see nature differently. And to me, that's really important because teaching and inspiring others were important in my professional life as a neurosurgeon. And photography has allowed that to continue. So thank you very much for allowing me to talk about my photography. I will stop my share.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Paul, and for your magnificent photos. And we see a lot of comments coming, thanking Chuly for her wonderful, inspiring presentation. I'm sure more will follow for yours. And now we will move on to Tony DuMoulin.
Tony's muted.
Tony, you're muted.
Okay, I'll start again. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for letting me share some time with you. And thank you, Gita, for introducing this event. I have to start by saying, Paul, your photos are absolutely stunning. I almost feel like I can't follow you because of that. I have no photos to show you. Anyway, my story is I used to be a lawyer. I practiced law in Vancouver for 40 years as a founding partner in my own law firm. For 25 years, I managed the law firm as well as practicing and teaching law. Just over 10 years ago, after having given my clients and partners 1 year's notice, I retired cold turkey at the age of 67. It was entirely my decision. Why did I do that? I'd really enjoyed my career and my clients, and I could have continued for many years more. There were a number of reasons, though. First of all, I had always had other interests, and I wanted the time to pursue them while I still had good health. I was not like many of my colleagues whose entire life was the law, and I was hearing tales of others who had either lost their health or died without having had a chance to enjoy retirement. The number of my grandchildren was increasing. I now have 5. And I wanted to spend more time with each of them while they were still young. The oldest will be heading off to university in Ontario this year, but I feel I have had the time to build a strong and close relationship with him over the last decade. We watch a lot of sports together. Professionally, I could sense that I was beginning to lose my edge and my drive. I wanted the best for my clients, and I felt that they could be better served by the younger lawyers I had mentored. In sports teams, as I say, I love sports. I wanted to retire while still at the top of my game. Another reason, a year earlier, my wife and I had taken the big step of downsizing from our house of almost 40 years to a condominium apartment. I learned from that successful experience that change was not to be feared, and it gave me an appetite for even more change. And finally, I had come to realize that I could only find out what life outside the office might look like if I took the plunge and created the space to enable me to rewire, whatever that might look like. So rewiring. So the next morning after my retirement, I was no longer an experienced lawyer, but suddenly a very inexperienced retiree. So the process of rewiring. At the time I retired, one of my clients told me with great certainty that I would miss the buzz of daily office work, and that within 6 months I would become bored and my failed retirement and come back to the office. With equal certainty, I can say he was 100% wrong. I did not miss the buzz. It is actually just stress. And I have not been bored for 1 second of my retirement. I've come to refer to myself as a recovering lawyer, because it takes time to shed lawyerly habits where time is measured in billable hours. Although I still believe law can be a noble profession, it was only after I stopped practicing that I came to realize what a taskmaster law is and how relatively narrow a perspective on the world it demands. Since I've retired, my life and my worldview has expanded, and these last 10 years have been among the happiest of my adult life. What have I become aware of since I retired? Well, first of all, relief from responsibility. I had taken for granted and simply accepted, unaware of its extent, the weight of responsibility I had carried over 40 years, a responsibility for clients, for my partners, for our employees, and for my family's financial well-being. On retirement, this weight lifted off my shoulders. And to my great relief and delight, I began to feel a sense of being lighter and freer. It is a wonderful sensation. Second, the gift of time. I now have the ability to take more time pursuing the activities I enjoy, or simply savoring each precious moment as it arrives, in contrast to 40 years of constantly rushing, squeezing things in, merely nibbling at the edges of my interests and becoming sleep deprived in the process. So how have I been spending this gift of time? With my history of tracking billable hours, I still feel a constant need to be accountable for my time, especially when I'm asked, so what are you up to these days? Well, I have not climbed Mount Everest, or run a retirement, or written a novel, or taken photographs like Paul, but I have kept enjoyably busy with many simple activities. A few examples. I read more. I've even started up a book club for both men and women, in contrast to my wife's 3 all-women book clubs. I think some of the members are listing in today. My wife and I have been able to do more traveling and for longer periods, including my first and real eye-opening trip, a visit to Asia. I exercise more, including 3 times a week regimen at a fitness center. I built a train set for my grandson. I designed and oversaw the building of a summer cabin, where I'm in the process of designing and planting a garden, a slow but satisfying project. I teach and play chess with 3 of my grandchildren, but the teaching part has ended now that they are frequently beating me. I dabble with watercolor painting and a bit of writing. But most of all, I spend much of my time now doing volunteer work with Vancouver Charities. Currently, I volunteer at the Jewish Seniors Alliance, where I sit on the board and the executive, as well as the editorial committee of JSA Senior Line magazine, to which I contribute articles, and I chair the advocacy committee. This volunteer work is very fulfilling and may hopefully even help seniors. I urge anyone who is looking for fulfillment in retirement to consider becoming a volunteer. And I know many of you are listening in are already volunteers. There are so many organizations that need volunteers. So who and what inspires me? I am inspired all the time. Those tending the gardens at Van Dusen or at Queen Elizabeth Park inspire me to work on my garden project. Seeing a very fit senior inspires me to work a bit harder on my exercise routine. Those who write well inspire me to write better, and so on. But I am most inspired by 2 particular things. First, the huge contribution to improving society made by the army of hardworking volunteers and staff in the nonprofit sector, in the arts, in amateur sports and recreation, in the environment, in health and welfare, in tending to and advocating for the vulnerable, the marginalized, and the underserved in our society. I have been fortunate to meet and work with many such wonderful people since I retired. I am also inspired by the unbounded and joyful energy of my grandchildren and their peers. Every time I see them or participate in their various activities, usually as a spectator, I marvel at their enthusiasm, their openness, and their thirst for knowledge and new adventures. The hopeful future I see in them and through them inspires me to get off my butt and do something useful. The future is our responsibility, and the future, it belongs to us as well. So thank you.
And thank you. I'm muted. Can you unmute me? Okay, sorry. Thank you so much, Tony. And now we shall pass the screen and the mic over to Tamar for our question and answer period, and to offer our thanks to our incredible RR&I speakers. Tamar, over to you.
Thanks so much, Geeta. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. My name is Tamar Stein. I work at Jewish Family Services. I'm the Seniors Community Outreach Coordinator. And I wanted to, first of all, of course, thank our amazing speakers today. Rosa, but I hope we can call you Chuly. I hope we are your friends now, that we can call you Chuly. And of course, Paul. And I'll chat a little bit more about Paul in a moment. And Tony, thank you so much. Very, very inspiring. It is the old adage of it's never too late. Nothing about old dogs and new tricks, I promise, but it's never too late to learn and do new things. As part of Thriving Seniors, we have a seniors community, we have a seniors leadership team, many of whom are here today on the call. So thank you all for coming, and Paul is a member of that team. And if you're interested in more of Paul's photography, we have about 2 or 3 of his presentations so far, and maybe even more in the future. And of course, if you're interested in any of our Thriving Seniors programs at Jewish Family Services, please let me know, and I'm happy to add you to our mailing list. And I do want to let you know that we have 2 coming up in May, one on May 10th about grief and loss, a frank discussion on grief and loss, and one on May 24th, which is going to be a frank discussion on medical assistance in dying. They're both Tuesdays. They're both at 11, and they're both about an hour long, and they're both going to be on Zoom. So if you're interested in those programs or any of our future programs, you can contact JSA or JFS to get my contact information. We're going to do questions and answers now. What I need you to do, because there are 3 screens of Zoom people, is if I don't see your hand up, you can just put the question into the chat line and just make sure to note which speaker you're asking the question of, if it's Chuly, Paul, or Tony. And of course, unmute yourself if you would like just to ask a question and I don't see your hand.
Do we have any?
And of course, I would encourage all the speakers to look in the chat of all of the wonderful accolades you're receiving there. Irina, did you have a question?
Okay, she's muted.
Always unmute yourself. I believe you can just unmute yourself.
No, she's still muted.
You're still muted, Irina. Just go to the top right-hand corner and you can unmute yourself. I believe one of the administrators can also.
Okay, what
go.
about now?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Irina Liberov, and it's not a question. It's just a little dedication to my favorite person with Chuly, Rosa. I was one of her clients for quite a while, and as many other clients, it was a sad time for me in my life. But what Rosa taught me is how to make fortune out of misfortune, which helped me to survive under certain circumstances. And just make a lesson, my life lesson, out of everything bad what happened in it. And her empathy, her dedication, loyalty, compassion, still with me, Rosa, forever. And I still miss you very much, but I'm so happy to hear that you're doing well and looking well, and I love you as always. And I want to echo Tony that volunteering makes a big difference in my life. I volunteer for Jewish Food Bank and still working for Holocaust Education Center as a part-time finance advisor. And I am planning to volunteer for Ukrainian immigrants, which are going to come to Canada, because I'm originally from Kiev. This is where I was born, educated, and raised. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Irina. Thank you for that. Definitely a lot of opportunities to volunteer in the community. I was just on Volunteer Vancouver today. I know that there's plenty of opportunities and things that people can get involved in either one time or ongoing. Tamar Cohen, did you have a question? I think someone saw your hand up earlier. You are muted, but if you have a question, and then we'll go to Alan. Alan, you're muted as well. Everyone, if you need to unmute, just go to the top right-hand corner of your little box, and you can unmute yourself that way. Alan, you're still muted. Sorry.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. I thought Paul's photographs were absolutely amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And it was lovely to hear Tony DuMoulin, because we go back many, many years.
We do.
Time. And, you know, he's still more or less doing the volunteer work, which is wonderful. I used to do a lot myself, but I can't do too much stuff now. I'm doing a bit of writing, trying to write. And I think one of the things, this is something more or less people should think, is more or less do some writing about your own family. Because the thing is, they don't know anything, because I've found doing some work, and I've been writing little snippets to my children of my grandparents and seeing and finding out how they came from At that time, it was actually Russia near Kiev. And I'm finding out so much. And the children should more or less know a little bit about their background. But I've been doing little segments of my life, and I send it over to my daughter in Toronto. And it's amazing, really, what you find out about yourself and about your family. And that thing is what's happening now, unfortunately. I mean, it's nothing new, unfortunately, in that part of the world. But the thing is, what they people there, your forebears, more or less had to put up with the pogroms going on in that part of the world. And people, younger people, must get to know about what happened. Anyway, that's my little bit, but it's lovely to see you, Tony.
Thank you.
And also the other speakers as well, because information about themselves, their family, is so important. Thank you.
Yes, Alan, very good point. It's always good to either write down or record some of your own history to share with your family. I think that's a great way to pass on your own legacy to your loved ones or people in the community, because I know like libraries and such are doing research programs like that. Apologize if I can't see your hand, but if you want to just unmute yourself, or Beverly, did you have your hand up? Maybe, nope. Or if you want to put something into the chat, I'll go on to other pages to see if I've missed anyone. No, everyone with their beautiful faces showing is on the first page. So Gita.
Yes, I just wanted to offer a comment from a friend who called them the new 3 R's. We know reading, writing, and arithmetic spelled terribly. However, her new 3 R's, and I think our 3 wonderful guests, and even those who commented most recently, really attribute so much to this. My friend, who is a professor at University of Lethbridge in education, said that in terms of education, the 3 most important R's are relationships, reflection, and restorative practice. So I think everybody has talked about relationships with friends, with family, with community. Reflection in terms of looking inward, in terms of what can we do, what are the causes of volunteering that we believe in and to which we want to contribute. And then one of the elders at the college where I worked for years helped me better understand the term restorative practice, because she said in the indigenous culture, this kind of motion with the hands means we lift you up. And I'm thinking and feeling that all of the comments today by our guests and our participants have served in terms of lifting us up. Thank you, Tamar.
Yes, Gita, I totally agree. I think it's really amazing. A lot of people look at like the later parts of their lives and think there's nothing more for me to do, or once they retire from a profession that was maybe all-consuming. I'm sure Tony can speak to that. It can
Covering lawyer.
Say, what do we do now? You know, what's next? And there is a lot that's next. I do agree. Tony, yeah?
Well, I just wanted to pick up on what you were saying earlier, Tamar, and what Alan introduced, the question of recording your own family's history from your perspective. What I'm doing is something, it was a gift given to me by my daughter-in-law. It's a program called Storyworth, and I'd like any of you who are interested to write that down. It's called Storyworth. I don't exactly know how to get it because I'm on the receiving end of it. But what it is every week, it takes writing into bite-sized pieces, and it's every week I get a new question from the program.
Marker.
For example, today I've gotten a question, or yesterday I got a question of what was your relationship with your grandparents, or something along those lines. So that gives me, maybe 20 minutes or half an hour of writing or more about my grandparents. I do it once a week. And at the end of 52 weeks, there's a book published with all 52 chapters of the different aspects of me answering those questions. And it's just a very easy and pleasant way of taking on what would otherwise be a difficult task. So I really recommend Storyworth. Okay.
All right, does that,
Larry has his hand up, I think.
Larry, yes?
Oh, hi, Tamar.
Hi, Larry.
Tamar, this program has been nothing less than inspirational, and so much so that I truly believe that after listening to the three presenters, which really present unique and original aspects of retirement, that there should be at least one senior as a feature to every single one of your programs. Please give it some consideration. It's not a momentum we want to lose. And because of the individuality of everybody and their own unique approaches, I think this will eventually apply to everybody in everybody's situation. I think this thing has been wonderful, but it should not be looked at as just a single program. Please, Tamar, give it some consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Larry. Many of our programs are all of our programs are for seniors, and I always appreciate it when it's also seniors themselves who are giving the presentations, who have lived the life, who have the experience for all of these, for many topics. I definitely don't want to lose that momentum.
Tamar, excuse me for interrupting. If we take Tony's idea and we have at least one testimony, which these are in effect, every week, at the end of the year, we have a heck of a book.
All right.
Think about it. Thank you.
Marilyn, did you have your hand up?
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to unmute. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Larry, I think this will be a great project for the Jewish Seniors Alliance to do.
Absolutely.
And I would love to help you to do it.
Okay.
The other thing that I wanted to say was that our Senior Line magazine, which I hope you all get, and if you don't, you should please call our office 7321555, I believe, and make sure that you get sent a copy. And we always feature seniors in our Senior Line magazine. I also want to, I think, Chuly, I actually was a teacher for one of your grandchildren at Richmond Jewish Day School, and I saw you at the Richmond Senior Center. The Senior Center throughout the city, now Richmond, has wonderful seniors activities and centers and things to do. Paul, I've heard your name through your friend, your fellow Jamaican, Harold Saunders, for years since I arrived here. And of course, Tony, you've been a tremendous inspiration for me and for all of us and for all the work that you do for the Jewish Seniors Alliance. Please, Gita and Liz, make sure you announce our upcoming programs, our spring forum. And I hope, I mean, it's a wonderful turnout. Let's stay rewired and inspired. Thank you.
Definitely. Gita, I think I'll turn it over to you for the last word.
Tamar, I just saw there's one other hand up, but it says Tam 1. I'm not sure who that is. Liz and I have looked on the list, but still not clear. Do you know who that might be?
I don't know. Can I say one thing though?
Rosa has her hand up.
Yes,
Yes,
Rosa speaking. Okay.
Thank you. Just listening to everybody, I mean, it's so inspiring. It's so, as you said, uplifting. It really took us from down here to up here. And I want to especially mention, which I didn't too much, my 2 grandchildren
Yay.
who do warm my heart over and over. It's not for the things they do, which they do fantastic things. Lorenzo is 23, Ayla 21. It's just, they're great guys. It's just because I love them for who they are. And it doesn't matter what they do, they just wonderful kids. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Rosa. As you spoke, I could see everybody's face nodding in affirmation and with a big smile and such engagement. So as we come to conclusion, I want to give a huge thanks to a friend from our program committee, to Tamar, for doing her wonderful thank you and leading the Q&A time, to Jen Prop, who's always behind the scenes, but our incredible technology person, and of course to our outstanding speakers, Chuly and Paul and Tony.